The Olynthos project is an ambitious initiative whose aim is to collect data that will give us a multi-scalar picture of an ancient city, from its early Iron Age roots to its abandonment and decline. Six years of fieldwork have now been completed. An interim report was published in the BSA Annual in 2017, and a second report is in press, due to appear in late 2020. The first report submitted to the journal To Archaeological ergo sti Makedoniake sti Thrakii will shortly appear in print for the year 2014. Every year for the past 6 years, more than 15 specialists and over 40 students have joined the 3 directors, Dr. Bettina Tsigarida, representing the Greek Archaeological Service, Professor Lisa Nevitt of the University of Michigan, and myself, representing the University of Liverpool and the British School at Athens, for a 6-week fieldwork season. The location of ancient Olynthos, whose ancient and indeed modern fame as a classical city rests principally on its defeat in 348 BC by Philip II of Macedon, was first proposed in print by Alan Wace in a paper published in 1916. Wace, who later became director of the British School at Athens, became involved in other projects during and after World War I, so it fell to David Moore Robinson, Professor of Classics at Johns Hopkins University in the United States, to undertake fieldwork at the site, beginning in 1928. Robinson's legacy continues to play a significant role in the study of classical cities, partly because of the speed and breadth with which the site was published. And I've just included a few details on this slide. The purpose of the new investigations, starting in 2014, was to apply the full range of available scientific, topographical, and analytical techniques to the study of an 8-kilometre square area, which includes the 2 hills and the valley areas around them. The initial stages of the project involved the evaluation of suitable topographical maps, aerial photographs, and plans that form the basis of a set of digital maps for the project. The creation of a digital grid, as you see from the photos on the slide, which eventually covered the full area of investigation. Geophysical survey over selected areas of the North and South Hills, up to 38 hectares using single techniques, and about 23.5 hectares using overlapping techniques. Intensive survey over the whole 8-kilometre square area available under the permit granted by the Greek Archaeological Service. Test trenches intended to follow up the data revealed by geophysics. Further selective excavation on the North and South Hills. A programme of intensive sampling for geochemistry and organic analyses, as well as the flotation of soil samples to detect organic and inorganic residues at the micro scale. In addition, three-dimensional mapping has been undertaken within the site perimeter using unmanned aerial vehicles, popularly known as drones, and digital photography. Finds from survey and from excavation have been logged digitally so that this evidence can be fully quantified and analysed in a variety of ways. The data gathered over the past 6 years has produced new evidence of urban topography, while intensive survey has given us a basis on which to evaluate the scale and intensity of occupation. Selective excavation has given us a view of individual residential units, the methods and materials used in their construction. Digital recording of trenches and features in 3 dimensions offers alternative ways of understanding excavated units, in addition to plans and sections. The comprehensive classification of finds using digital records, photography, and the scientific analysis of constituent materials, including clays, as we've heard just a moment ago, stone and metals, is allowing us to build a coherent thesis about production, consumption, and exchange networks at ancient Olynthos. In a brief presentation, it is only possible to give a selective overview of what has been achieved. Olynthos is an unusual city site. It was an exceptionally large urban centre, as you can see from the slide, and its different plan details. A successful archaic civic community on the South Hill, which for 80 or more years expanded into an even larger, well-planned city. On the North Hill, principally, and civic amenities of various kinds. Robinson's team excavated all or parts of almost 100 house units, principally on the North Hill. The South Hill was a more challenging environment, which remained poorly understood. Olynthos remains an immensely valuable resource to archaeologists because its development was interrupted at a very specific historical moment, and its houses abandoned or destroyed. The kinds of research questions that the new Olynthos project team wanted to ask related to the macro as well as the micro scales within the city. How can we characterize its spatial organisation? How big was it in its archaic stages and in its expanded 4th century phase? How can we understand domestic behaviour using single context recording, 3-dimensional finds distribution, and microstratigraphy? How can we understand the development of an urban topography diachronically, identify the evidence associated with the collapse of an urban network? And more generally, how can we assemble and analyse information about an ancient community's social, ritual, and economic identity from its material remains? Geophysical survey, using a variety of techniques, including magnetometry, earth resistance, electrical imaging, and ground-penetrating radar, have been applied on the north and on the south hills. On the North Hill, as we see on this slide, the resistivity data collected in 2014 reflects the continuation of the grid plan that was revealed so successfully in this area by the Robinson team, to the northeast of the modern conserved area. Over here in yellow, you can see the corner of the modern conserved area and the investigative grid to the northeast in the main part of the slide. A number of test trenches laid out in 2014 revealed the existence of residential units of the type excavated by Robinson in the 1930s and by Yulia Vokotopoulou in the 1990s. One of these was chosen for systematic excavation, the house designated B96, following Robinson's topographic identification. Further north, Trench 3, where an unusually large geophysical anomaly was recorded, a series of features was discovered that are evidently non-residential in this area over here and here in particular. The complete outline of House B96 was excavated between 2015 and 2019, initially using 4 metre by 4 metre squares separated by balks. A small part of the adjacent house, B95, to the north of B96, was partially investigated, as well as the narrow passage between them, denoted the stenopos. The balks were eventually removed, revealing the entire structure. A northern suite of rooms forms the main domestic focus, as in many other previously excavated houses. This is separated by a roofed area, the pastas, which extends across the whole width of the house. A photomosaic shows the construction materials in more detail. In the black and white drawing, we can see the contents of each interior and some structural alterations. There were 2 entrances, one via a short passage slightly off-centre from the house facade, opening onto the paved courtyard, the other via room G in the southwest corner of the house. The function of the large space G has yet to be fully determined. Apart from the cobbled yard, the floors were all simple earth floors, so no mosaics. A small room adjacent to the corridor may have been an andron. It has an off-centre doorway, and the walls were built mainly of carefully chosen slabs and flat stones. This is this room here in the middle. The larger adjacent room, space F, housed near its centre a pie-shaped feature. Sorry, I've missed a paragraph here. Robinson used the term oikos unit to describe a suite of rooms which often included cooking and washing facilities with a chimney or flue. A unit of this type has been identified in the northwest corner. It has the well-built walls of a chimney which contained a large heap of ash and some animal bones. This would have provided structural support for the stair base in front of it. Behind it was a small bathroom containing the base of a ceramic hip bath. Here is the oikos unit. This is the so-called flue and the larger space, space F. The larger adjacent room, space F, housed near its centre a pie-shaped feature built of clay and tile over a floor surface. Around this feature, many ceramic vessels have been found. This is a view of the bathroom as well as the stair base. What you can see on the slide now is space F with the pie-shaped feature I'm just describing. Around this feature, many ceramic vessels were found, some in a more or less complete form, as well as a deer antler. We await further scientific analyses of the clay in order to find out more about the function of this pie-shaped feature, which was not associated with any signs of ash or burning. The different types of scientific analyses deployed by the project team are helping to reveal the nature of social behaviour and of the productive activities that took place in House B96. Bulk samples for flotation and block samples extracted to show microstratigraphy are verifying what we believe to be house floors, which are difficult to identify with confidence during excavation. Micromorphology slides subjected to geochemical analysis offer more information about construction materials. Gridded soil samples have been taken for phytolith, starch, and geochemical analyses. In addition, in 2019, ceramic sherds from 2 separate destruction deposits were sampled for organic residue analysis. So on this slide we can see the intensive sampling of floor surfaces which help us to define where food was prepared and where it was consumed. These combined techniques will help us understand more fully what was going on in space F at the time of its destruction and abandonment. The near-complete vessels found near the pie-shaped feature include tablewares, storage vessels, and cooking pots. Space D next to the oikos unit seems to have been one of the principal storage areas in the house. A significant number of storage pots was found in situ, along with tableware. Our understanding of the functions of specific rooms is complicated by the presence of ceramics that in all likelihood fell from an upper floor, once the beams and rafters of the ground floor roof had collapsed. The pottery forms a palimpsest at floor level, but reconstruction of individual vessels, as well as their location within deposits, as we can see on this slide, points to material from an upper story. Preliminary analysis of the ceramic data from House B96 gives us a broad overview of the inorganic materials materials that were abandoned within the house. Over 3,600 kilograms of ceramic materials were recovered from the house alone, including over 520 kilograms of pottery. Some of the vessels represented within this material are largely complete or can be reconstructed. At the northeast end of the North Hill, a series of interlocking trenches has extended the area first examined in 2014 in connection with a significant geophysical anomaly, which turned out to be an unusually large pithos. This is the area that I'm going to be showing you in a moment. Stone foundations belonging to a relatively narrow structure resembling the letter H or N, depending on your first language, represent a building whose exact function awaits further analysis. It was within this structure that a deposit of superimposed, upturned vessels and a bronze lamp were recovered in 2014 within a cylindrical stone feature covered with tile fragments. This is the location of this deposit. And this is a view of that deposit during excavation. A small but persistent scatter of metallurgical waste fragments to the southwest, along with the top of an Olynthos type mill, as many as 3 beehive covers, and the exceptional size of the pithos, all suggest productive activities took place here. More detailed analysis of the ceramics will be carried out in future study seasons in order to test and refine this hypothesis. The South Hill has proved to be a particularly exciting and important focus of research on the Olynthos project. Robinson's team found the whole area difficult to understand, not least because of the more complex stratigraphy. No full plan of the South Hill was produced by Robinson's team or by John Travlos along the lines of topographical plans of the North Hill. The Olynthos project has deployed a range of techniques in order to understand the topographical evolution of the urban focus on the South Hill. Geophysical survey, using a range of complementary techniques, magnetometry, earth resistance, electrical imaging, and ground-penetrating radar, has provided important evidence of the layout of roads and construction units across the South Hill. The layout is evidently different from what we see in the later North Hill grid plan. The organisation of streets is discontinuous, but there are longer, continuous north-south oriented street sections along the west side and the east side. Roads across the South Hill, perpendicular to the north-south roads, include some that are straight and others that are curved, following the contours of the hill. Residential blocks are shallower than the North Hill, and individual house units are hard to identify. Ground-penetrating radar data gives us some depth information about the blocks of housing. These are still in process of full analysis. In design, these houses are undoubtedly different in design from those on the North Hill. Survey data from the South Hill shows that almost all of the available area was occupied in the pre-classical period. This complements the data from geophysical analyses. A number of test trenches has been opened on the South Hill. Here I select two that have been especially important for our project. Trench 23 was opened to provide a broad view of the hill's stratigraphy. Trench 35 was intended to verify the relationship between roads and structures revealed by the geophysical data and what we could see on the ground. Trench 23 on the slide in front of you proved immensely valuable as a cross-section of activities at the southern end of the South Hill. Immediately below the modern surface, traces were found of a large midden which had collapsed onto a road surface. The deposit contained mid-4th century pottery, animal bones, and metal items. The rubbish had been deposited against the external wall of a near-contemporary house, which is represented on the slide in yellow on this plan. In front of this house was a large pit at the centre of the northern part of the trench, which had destroyed part of an archaic wall. This is represented in orange on the plan, and contained mainly imported and local archaic pottery and bone. The pit was therefore probably dug after the destruction layer, visible as an ash deposit across the trench, which is associated by the excavators with a major destruction in the archaic city. The pit is thought to predate the classical phase, identified here, represented by the house that you see outlined in yellow. Beside and almost parallel to the archaic wall, the one outlined in orange, a line of large stones may have protected the wall from erosion by rainwater. These stones rested on a floor whose subfloor yielded pottery dating to the early Iron Age. The floor did not continue beyond the stones, and the area between them and the archaic wall was excavated, bringing to light what looked like another small pit. This also contained pottery dating to the early Iron Age, but in addition, there was material from the prehistoric period, probably Neolithic. There is no Bronze Age data from Olynthos. Further study of the pottery is necessary to clarify the nature of some of these deposits, but it seems that during the early Iron Age, a floor was created here and was subsequently partly destroyed when the pit was dug later in the same period. In 2019, a second stratigraphic trench, that's Trench 35, measuring 3 metres by 3 metres, was opened northeast of Trench 23 in an area where geophysical investigation suggests another east-west street and neighbouring buildings were located. The trench was sited to investigate the history of a different part of the street layout. An east-west wall was located almost in the middle of the trench, corresponding to the south facade of a building. South of that wall, and at a lower level, and therefore from an earlier date, a large decorated pithos, whose diameter is 90 centimetres and it is more than a metre high, containing soil, ceramics, bone, and shells, came to light in the western part of the trench. This is the circular feature here. Another wall below the first one, and running parallel to it, was associated with significant quantities of decorated and undecorated pottery dating to the Archaic period. Excavation of a series of 4 contexts adjacent to the wall finally revealed a foundation level for the street surface, composed of reddish soil and filled with small stones, gravel, and pebbles. There was insufficient time to excavate the trench to natural. However, our work suggests that this area of the hill was inhabited in the Archaic and in the Classical periods. A few sherds of early Iron Age pottery discovered in the fill of the trench suggest that early Iron Age habitation also extended in this area, as indeed the survey data suggests. Finally, a few words about the intensive survey of the territory included in our permit. Survey data provides important information about the broader context of the excavated material. Outside the 2 hills, the surrounding fields have been walked systematically. The broad message that the data collected reveals is that the expansion of Olynthos as a city beyond the South Hill dates to the 4th century BC. Some evidence of late Roman ceramics has been found on the southern slopes of the South Hill, and Byzantine activity has been revealed in some hotspots, particularly to the east of the North Hill. Detailed analysis of the survey data is showing us where there were concentrations of 4th century houses outside the 2 hills. Six years of fieldwork deploying a range of methods of investigation at the macro and the micro levels is providing researchers with a wealth of new data that can be used to reconsider the nature and organisation of ancient cities in the south of Europe. It is already clear that Olynthos was a city that was linked in various forms of cultural expression, not just with its immediate neighbours in the Halkidic Peninsula, but also with communities in the Thermaic Gulf. This is apparent from the general architectural layout of the archaic phases on the South Hill, as well as in the associated ceramics. Researchers are now in a better position to evaluate the population and social habits of ancient Olynthos, and to make valid comparisons with cities of other periods, as well as having much more insight into the workings of the domestic and civic economies. These are some aspects of the project that are already the subject of current publications. 3 monographs are planned to appear in the next 3 to 5 years. We welcome your reactions and comments on what has been discovered. Thank you very much for listening.